Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In this episode, number 106, I discuss the recipe for great political success on social media. In social media news, Google rebrands its ad products, Instagram releases a new guide on how to maximize IGTV, and Facebook is rolling out a new grid for profiles. I interview Ken Cochran, head of digital with political party Fine Gael. In Shoutouts, 3 social media tips for great political communications. Ask JSB comes from the EU Parliament. In JSB's column, the combination of my political, PR, journalistic and social media instincts rock in the digital age. And find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
Google has announced a rebrand or a merging of their ad offerings to bring their ad and marketing products under one roof. The 3 big changes Google has announced are: Google AdWords is becoming Google Ads, better representing the full range of Google advertising products. The new Google marketing platform will incorporate its existing double-click advertiser products and the Google Analytics 360 suite. And finally, DoubleClick for Publishers and DoubleClick Ad Exchange will now come under the single title of Google Ad Manager, simplifying the categorization of the tools. Now, as a digital marketer, these sound very familiar to me and sound like the names that Facebook have for their products. Google says for 90% of small business owners, the main goal of advertising online is to get customers to call, visit a store or make a purchase. When you use smart campaigns, we'll ask how it's working for your goals, so we can fine-tune your ads to get the results you care about most. I look forward to tinkering with the new rebranded tools and I'll let you know how I get on. Instagram has released a new guide on how to maximize IGTV. Spotted by social media expert Matt Navarra, the 50-page PDF guide tells us how to create content for Instagram's new IGTV long-form video platform. It includes a range of tips, apps, and accessories you can consider to help improve your IGTV videos. I've included this guide and some screenshots in the blog post associated with this podcast over at digitaltraining.ie. Facebook has started rolling out a new grid view for profiles that transforms your personal timeline into an Instagram-like collage of posts. The profile grid has been in beta and was rolled out to some users. Basically, the new feature allows you to show your most recent posts in a layout similar to Instagram. The feature is being rolled out to other markets and I've checked and I have it. I've included how it looks like in the blog post associated with the podcast over at digitaltraining.ie.
Interview.
In this episode, I interview Ken Cochran. Ken is digital media specialist for Irish political party Fine Gael, and he leads out on their digital strategy and execution. He also has involvement in the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar's digital strategy. He previously worked for Today FM as part of various production teams, including the Ian Dempsey Breakfast Show and the Ray Foley Show.
JSB Talks Digital.
Hi Ken, and thank you so much for joining me on JSB Talks Digital.
No problem. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So, like myself, you've come from the world of radio into digital marketing. From your perspective, are they much different in terms of mediums?
Yeah, so I think that, if you were to boil the two of them down to their sort of, the most granular parts, they're all about producing content that's designed to engage an audience. So I think in terms of radio versus digital communications, there are a lot of similarities there in that. But then, even with if you look at where I was in terms of the radio station, so Today FM, they were going through a bit of a digital transformation at the time when I was there as well. So they were increasing their online offering. So a lot of the learnings and the skills that I obtained there were very transferable, very relevant to my work here in Fine Gael.
I totally agree. I always think that any day that is a digital day for me, I'm lending back into my journalistic and my communication skills. Now, let's talk about politics and politicians. Like, they are individuals with their own personality. They've got their own conversational styles. So how do you deal with managing social network for a party made up of hundreds of politicians while trying to achieve consistency in terms of tone of voice? It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But I suppose the first thing to say is that the members of the parliamentary party who I serve, so they are in effect, sole traders. So they all have their own kind of agendas in their constituencies. They all have their, the things that they want to put forward, and they all crucially have their own unique tones of voice. So what we do to help them is to provide them with best practice training. So that they actually know how to maximize their digital presence, so that they can actually, really achieve some great results. But I think if you were to look at some of some of our own parliamentary party members, who are doing well, one of them who's really kind of, shining at the moment is actually Simon Harris. So since the referendum, the 8th Amendment, he's really taken on the Instagram as a really core channel for him, and he's really seen some great results.
And I actually follow Simon on Twitter and also on Instagram. And yes, I get the political speak and what's happening in his daily political life on Twitter. Yeah. But when I see him on Instagram, I'm getting to know him a little bit more. And
a bit more personal.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely like social media gold. Do you think that you can persuade others to do that? And of course, he's doing it himself. That's the other thing. It's only authentic when you're doing Insta stories in your own right. Do you think that will extend to other political leaders?
Yeah, so I mean, I know that, say, for example, the Taoiseach does his own Twitter, for example, and that really is only him doing that. So I think that's really important as well, to get the authentic tone of voice. And you're right as well, social media allows you to really see another side to the politician. So if you're used to seeing them on the television or hearing them on the radio and they're being very formal and they're putting their point across, social media allows them to be a bit more relaxed and actually get to know the real person.
And, they are people at the end of the day. And I love when Simon was baking with his sister. That was kind of just like real normal stuff. And I think I think the public appreciate it. But let's talk about the fear around social media, because I know from my experience and working with people in public and private sector, getting over that fear is really difficult. And that fear is paralyzing their social media progress. So how do you become slick and sophisticated on social media and also managing the fear and getting them past that? What's your approach?
Yeah, so I mean, managing the fear and actually, getting past, the issues that they might think that they're going to come up against. I think it's all about training, and practice makes perfect for a lot of them. And, really just sort of getting a bit more comfortable with it, repetition, and then, continually evaluating what they're doing and how they're doing it. But I mean, in terms of, things going wrong or whatever, I can, everyone has had their own kind of, foibles, if you like. They've got things that haven't gone right. So if you look at Fine Gael, for example, once during the last Rugby World Cup, we put out a graphic which was designed to highlight the strong economic growth that Ireland was having at the time. So we, produced it and showed Ireland's economic growth versus the other nations who were in the quarterfinal. Put that out an hour before the match kicked off. It was Ireland versus Argentina. But then at about the half-time mark, when it looked like Ireland was probably going to lose it, the tweet actually took on a new life, if you like, and it was seen as sort of as being a little bit condescending. So things can go wrong. Things can't, they're not always going to go right. But it's all about trying it, kind of sailing close to the wind, and and learning from your mistakes.
And it was such a clever approach, right? But the context of timing on social media is really interesting because it only got attention at halftime, even though you had put it out an hour before the match. So,
Exactly.
yeah, really, really interesting case study, and thanks for sharing. So, in the world of politics, maybe there are more haters and trolls than in other professions. How do you deal with them?
So I think the first thing to say is that we are a democratic organisation. So Fine Gael, our politicians are elected by the people. So we welcome debate. We welcome people's feedback. So whether it's positive about one of our policies or negative about one of our policies, we want to hear from you, and we want to facilitate that debate as well. But then, in terms of actually dealing with this, for our PP, for example, our parliamentary parties, we would provide training. And if you were to look at how we approach that, it comes down to dissent versus abuse. So dissent can be, very strongly putting your case forward that you, in the strongest terms, disagree with Fine Gael, one of its policies, one of its politicians. But abuse is where it kind of crosses the line, where it kind of becomes a bit more personal, offensive language and so on. And what we use to guide us in that is our house rules. And they are freely available on our Facebook page and also our website as well, for everyone to see. And it literally governs what we do and do not allow on our social channels. And likewise, our parliamentary party as well would avail of the same of the same rules. And then, so if someone does do that, then we will always avail of the moderation tools that are there.
Yeah, and once you have your guides and your policies in place and people understand them, then they should walk on social and get involved without that fear. It is that case of people attacking the man or the woman as opposed to the issue. And obviously, you find a lot more of that on social than on other channels. In terms of channels, what are the best social networks for Fine Gael? And obviously, it will depend on who you're speaking to on any given day.
Absolutely. So I suppose, the number one channel that we have is Facebook. There's 2.8 million Irish Facebook users. 70% of them return every day. For context, there are more people active on Facebook in Ireland than have driver's licenses. So it really is, the Goliath in terms of the channels that are out there. And that really allows us to reach, the real voter, the punter at home, the actual, the mother of two, or the older person, or the student who's in college. It really enables us to have conversations with them and to actually tailor our content and produce targeted content, crucially, that we can then target at them, to talk to them about our policies and so on. And so that would really be our number one. And then in terms of the second one, obviously Twitter would be really important to us. We use that for media promotions, in terms of who's going to be on television or radio and so on. Press releases highlighting them as well, but also active rebuttal. So if there is an interview happening on radio, for example, and someone puts forward a fact which isn't correct, Twitter allows us to rebut in real time and actually correct the record. And I think that that's really powerful, because if you look at other more kind of traditional forms of media, for example, print. So if someone produces a headline that is factually incorrect, now they may retract it some days later, but it's never going to be in the same prominence. It's never going to have the same impact as the original headline had. Whereas Twitter, in the context of active rebuttal, allows us to correct the record with the same audience and in real time, and that's really powerful.
I actually remember an example of that, and it was Simon Harris again tweeting Morning Ireland on RTE Radio 1 after an interview to clarify an issue, and they obviously read out the tweet as well. So again, that acknowledgement of real-time rebuttal is a really good example of Twitter. Okay, so your third one.
Yeah. Third one, Instagram. So Instagram is the fastest growing social network in the country. It will overtake Twitter one day. And, it's certainly in the context of the Taoiseach, his sort of appeal to a younger audience as well. Twitter, or rather Instagram, is really important for us in that regard. And we're really ramping up our efforts to really maximize that channel. Then beyond that, YouTube pre-roll would be really important. So obviously, uploading your videos to YouTube are important. insofar as SEO, but actually we find that we get a lot of benefit from the pre-roll ads option as well, which is really important.
Have you got another one that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so Google search then obviously beyond that, and then our website we then use for data capture, so capturing emails, the pixels, so retargeting and so on. But then we also use email, of course, and then more kind of traditional means. So SMS has actually become part of our digital strategy, one of our core channels, and we use that for kind of more call to action driven, really short, sharp messages at key points.
So you've mentioned video and YouTube, and recently you launched a new weekly video from Taoiseach Leo Varadkar. How important is video now in your social media strategy?
It's absolutely vital. So I think if you were to take the marriage equality referendum versus the Eighth Amendment referendum and really boil it down to the numbers there. So for the marriage equality referendum, we produced about 5 or 6 videos for that campaign. For the 8th referendum, over 25 videos were created for that campaign. And that's not a case of, quantity over quality. It's a case of we recognize that video is a really important part of our digital strategy, and we're really maximizing that now. And again, you mentioned there about the weekly messages. So originally, the weekly message from the former Taoiseach, Enda Kenny, was an email format. But whenever Leo Varadkar became leader, he then took it on, but actually turned it into video format. And every week you will see the Taoiseach of the country, wherever he is in the world, will give you an update on what he's doing and what he's been doing for the whole week. And I think that sort of highlights as well the Taoiseach's acknowledgement of the importance of video as in the context of his own digital strategy.
So staying with video, but now moving to live video. I watched the Fine Gael leadership hustings on Facebook last year, and I'm not just saying it because you're on. I have actually said it in previous podcasts, and it actually got my shoutouts after it happened. But I was impressed for 3 reasons. One, you hosted the events and managed the communications exclusively through Facebook rather than engaging traditional media to broadcast out. It was highly engaging in terms of the format, and you had one of your own TDs actually being the anchor man, which was very interesting. And then thirdly, for me, it showed the power of social media for political engagement, and there was lots of engagement. Tell us about how you conceptualized it, and is it something that you would do again?
Absolutely. So the actual concept was inspired, if you like, by the Hillary Clinton 2016 presidential campaign. So for her, the primaries that she would have been involved in, all of those were streamed through Facebook. But not sort of via your mobile phone. It was a proper video rig that they had brought in. And then likewise with the UK Labour Party, whenever they were electing Jeremy Corbyn as their leader, they streamed the entire thing. So that was kind of where it came from. But I think it was really important for us as well, from the point of view of actually showing the democratic process which was taking place. So Leo Varadkar became leader of Fine Gael, but then subsequently became leader of the whole country. He was elected Taoiseach. So it was really important for us to kind of highlight that, to show exactly what was happening, to be completely transparent. And yeah, as you mentioned, we had 4 different events, 5 really. So we had one, the hustings were Dublin, Carlow, Cork, and Galway, and then we had our final result was held in the Mansion House of Dublin. So absolutely, they were a massive success, and so much so we've actually taken the ball and run with it, if you like. So earlier in the year, we continued producing high quality live events. So we had our Make Your Pitch event, which was a recruitment drive with a difference. So that was kind of inspired by a reality TV show that kind of has an entrepreneurial element to it. I'm not going to name names.
Are we talking about The Apprentice here?
Oh, no, we're talking about Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den, the other one, Dragon's Den,
yeah,
yes.
the other one. And so that involved, we created a web page, allowed people to submit their ideas. So that could have been an idea for their community, or could have been something for the entire country. They could submit it either through just writing the words in, or actually uploading a video from the mobile phone. So again, placing a lot of onus on video. And then we whittled it down to 4 people, and we brought them into a room, and they were allowed to make their pitch. We held it live in the Helix in Dublin, and our panel of judges, if you like, was the Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, Taoiseach Simon Coveney, and then ministers Helen McEntee and Josepha Madigan. And it was great. It got a lot of engagement, really, really different. And I actually haven't seen any other political party do anything remotely like it since.
Well, I love the creativity. And I mean, as a voter and somebody who's engaged in politics, and there's a lot of people like me, I think social media presents so many opportunities. And also we get a different narrative. We're getting the narrative from the party as opposed to from the media, which is obviously the middleman in that communication. So tell me about your greatest social media challenge, because we all love successes, but we actually love when people have challenges, because sometimes we can learn most from those.
Mm-hmm. I think our biggest challenge is continuing to innovate and continuing to create content that's actually going to resonate with the user. So we aren't the only ones who are producing content out there on the internet. There's other political parties, but there's also, a raft of other media producers as well. So it's about coming up with new and fresh ideas that are actually going to engage your audience and make them take notice of what you're doing. And I think, we use that as well to try come up with different angles to approach our campaigns with. And I look at the childcare campaign we held back in October 2017. And we actually used, we went down to Drogheda and got a real family, a couple and their 2 kids. And we used them to actually tell the story of how the new childcare measures were going to benefit them and their family. So again, that's about, and then that allowed, the user at home, hopefully, to sort of see themselves within that, because obviously we targeted at parents and so on within Facebook. So I think that's probably our greatest challenge is coming up with stuff that's fresh and it's going to connect.
Well, you used to be a radio show producer, and we know the role of producers is to create a brand new radio show every single day. So I'm sure you're well equipped to come up with new ideas. Now, let me ask you about your social media ambitions. If we're looking 12 months down the line, where would you like to be in terms of your social media footprint and your achievements?
So I think the next 12 months, obviously, my biggest ambition, all my focus is on preparing the party for whatever election may come. So be it a general, be it a local, be it a European, or beyond that, then there's a number of referenda are sort of lined up to be held. So that's really the core focus, is making sure that we're ready, we're prepared, and then of course during the actual election, whenever that is actually putting on the best display that we possibly can.
Yeah, and that's the business of politics comes down to election day, does it? And as you say, you may have one or more on your hands between now and the next 12 months. Only time will tell. And finally, Ken, what have you learned most about how to be a social media pro for politics in your job since you stepped into that role?
Yeah, so I think that it's really important to be a generalist, so to not be too focused on one specific thing. So you've got to be able to cover the technical, but also the creative and the strategy as well. But I think that probably the most important aspect of it is actually people and teamwork. So being able to bring people together, managing the various different stakeholders and agencies that are out there. We've got a production team that we work very closely with as well. But also then, as I mentioned earlier on, I serve the parliamentary party. So it's dealing with the politicians and making sure that everyone is on side and is working for the same goal. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on and discussing your social media strategy on the podcast. Obviously I didn't want you to reveal any state secrets, but it's really interesting for others to find out how another social media pro tackles their daily challenges. So you might as well give the party a plug now. And where can people find Fine Gael on social?
So @Fine Gael is our handle for all our channels. And actually, so if people tune in to the Fine Gael Facebook page on Friday night at around 8:30 p.m., you'll be able to watch our latest live event. So it's called Farm Friday with Leo. And the Taoiseach is going to be on a farm somewhere in Munster, and he's going to be getting involved in various farm-related activities. So it's our most ambitious one yet, and it's well worth watching.
Oh, wow. What did they say? Don't work with animals and don't work with children. Okay, I'm going to tune into that because I want to know what type of wellies Leo is going to wear. Ken Cochran, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout-outs to brands, organisations or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, I'm sharing 3 of my top political and social media tips that I know work.
1.
Thinking before you tweet might sound like social media common sense. However, I've lost count of the number of politicians who haven't taken this good advice on board. I'll give you another tip associated with that. If in doubt, leave it out.
2.
Ken made a really great point in our interview about social media being all about people. In my second tip, I'm suggesting that people should come before politician. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you're trying to communicate a political message, you must be able to decipher it quite simply and sharply how that political issue actually affects the people. And you must take the side of the people and communicate it from the people's perspective, not the perspective of the politician or the political party.
3.
Video killed the radio star is a bit of a mantra right now in 2018 when it comes to social media. But showing the real you by going front of screen will definitely help you succeed when it comes to social media. When you step in front of a camera, whether it's a smartphone or a Canon camera or a TV camera, you cannot help but show the real you. People are demanding authenticity in the social media age, and you have to peel back the layers of the politician in you and show more of your authentic self.
Ask JSB.
In today's episode of JSB Talks Digital, I bring you a question from the EU Parliament. Selina Kramer is Social Media Manager with the EPP Group in Brussels. And here's her question.
Hey Joanne, this is Selina from the EPP Group in the European Parliament in Brussels. I have a question for you because nowadays authenticity is key in online communication and certainly when it comes to politics. But how can you as an assistant of a politician help your MEP with publishing posts online without losing this personal touch? Thanks.
Hey Selina, and thank you so much for your question. It's a great one. One of the biggest difficulties that political strategists and social media managers like you have when it comes to encouraging their politician to engage in social media is that they have to show their true self. Heretofore, working in print, whether it's TV or even in radio, you can actually keep up the guard of the politician and have a barrier between you and the citizen or the voter. Now, in the age of social media, you're stepping into a place where people demand and expect you to be the real you. So the advice that I give to you and also your political assistants in the EU Parliament is create some social media content where the politician actually shows the real him or herself. Look at the metrics and compare those metrics against non-human content. Hopefully, the results will show that when the politician is being more authentic and more personable, you get more engagement. Because when it comes to digital, the statistics and the facts won't lie. I hope that helps, and let me know how you get on. If you have a digital marketing or social media question, don't forget that you can leave me a voicemail on my website. Just go to digitaltraininginstitute.ie/askjsb or use the hashtag AskJSB on Twitter or on Instagram.
JSB's column.
In today's JSB's column, I share my insights into political communications in the digital age. As a former journalist, PR practitioner, political scientist, and now a digital expert, I think the combination of my skills provide a unique perspective on how to run a modern-day political campaign. Well, as Andrew McAlinden, who's the head of communications at Garda Síochána, said 2 weeks ago at my Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit, everything must start with a strategy. Jumping into social media for political communications without a strategy is not a fail-safe plan. You really need to understand why you're using individual social networks and what you want to say on them. Ken has said it. I've said it in terms of what I've said to Selina in the Ask JSB segment. It's all about the people. The voice of the people has never been louder. The balance of power has swung in favour of the voter. They can ask, they can demand answers, and they can give you their feedback on social media every single day. And you have to listen to it. Even if you get criticism, consider it valuable voter feedback. Political common sense also needs to extend online. So when you're standing in the Houses of Parliament, whether it's here in Ireland or in any other country, you have your best political foot forward. When you step online, you must keep that political instinct alive. And I would argue that your political instinct in and on social media needs to be on fire. I would also advise that you should respect each and every platform for what it is. So like posting a press release on Twitter, a link to your website is absolutely fine. But going to Facebook and expecting the general public to read a press release is not good. Press releases are built for journalists, not for voters. You have to reframe and repurpose the message and give respect to each individual social network. If you're not engaging the electorate on social media and having conversations, then you're simply a broadcaster. And if you want to be a broadcaster, just go the traditional route and engage some journalists. Don't be afraid of the conversation. Hey, when you go canvassing and knocking on the doors, you have conversation. Consider yourself knocking on those doors 3, 6, 5 every single day of the year when you're on social media. Use the criticism wisely. Don't waste that valuable knowledge, as I said, and also leverage online platforms for scaling your message. This is probably one of the most powerful outcomes that you can get from a really robust social media strategy. If you want to target female entrepreneurs like me, if you craft your message that speaks directly to Joanne Sweeney Burke, you can scale that message to thousands of women just like me. Personalization matters. Niche down on your topics, audiences, and messages. Don't just broadcast large messages, broad topics for the Irish people. It's not going to land. You're not going to get your conversions. You also have to start funneling your voters. I was really impressed when Ken started talking about landing pages on websites, analytics, conversions. He knows that he's just not having a singular conversation with somebody on a social network. He's taking them on a journey. There is a realization now that we have to pay to play. Facebook is not free. Twitter is not free. These platforms are advertising platforms. This is their business model. You need to redirect and invest money in social advertising. The other thing that I would say is be in it for the long game. No quick wins on social media. In fact, I had a conversation with a Facebook representative who deals with government outreach, and he said to me, they're not interested in the virality of one post. What they're interested in is the constant and regular engagement and momentum between a political party and the electorate. Video is really important. Do more of it. Get comfortable front of screen. Consider native video and also lives in your overall strategy. And finally, it's all about mobile stupid. People are consuming social media content on their mobile phone. Make sure you optimize your content in the first instance for mobile. So there you go, some free and, may I argue, some excellent tips from JSB today on how to win on social media for political communications. If you want to discuss your election campaign in the context of a digital communications or social media strategy, then get in touch. Simply drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie.
Social media tool of the week.
The social media tool that saved my working week this week is TransMap. So I was working on a client campaign and I was monitoring the virality and reach of their hashtag. TransMap monitors in real time your Twitter hashtags and topics around it. So you can view trending hashtags, you can visualize the topics trending nationally and also in your city. To find out more, log on to transmap.com and there is a subscription model included with the tool. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 106 of JSB Talks Digital. If you're a regular listener, I would love you to post a review on Spotify or iTunes. I really enjoyed putting this show together, and thanks to Ken for his honesty and his insights. Now, what you may not know, listeners, is that JSB once ran for politics. Yes, I did in 2009 in my home county of Donegal. I actually had a whole website, a YouTube channel, and loads of social networks. I studied political science at college. I didn't get elected. I lost by 48 votes. However, I got that beast out of my system. I much prefer politics on the other side. So there you go, a little bit of an extra insight from JSB today. If you work in the public sector and you're interested in building your professional brand online and becoming a digital communications expert, make sure you check out my new diploma in digital communications for public sector. You can find it at publicsectormarketingpros.com/diploma. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show on my award-winning blog at digitaltraining.ie. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital.